recognize Senator Schiff for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's an honor to serve on this committee and represent California's 4.2 million small businesses, including tech startups, nonprofits, child care centers, rural businesses, the arts and entertainment industry, and women and minority-owned businesses. That number is growing daily, and I am very proud to represent these incredible business owners, innovators, and hardworking employees. Senator Loeffler, I appreciate the conversation that we had last week. I think it was last week. The weeks have seemed endless these days. As you know very well, horrific wildfires and high winds have ravaged California over the last month, displacing thousands of families and destroying homes, schools, community centers, places of worship, and countless small businesses. As these fires have impacted the livelihood of innumerable Californians, it is crucial that we know California will have the full support of the federal government to respond, to recover, and to rebuild. And we must rebuild resiliently. The SBA provides disaster assistance for homeowners, renters, nonprofits, and businesses of all sizes affected by natural disasters. I got to see this really in operation, visiting the Discovery Resource Centers in Los Angeles, in Westwood, and in Pasadena. SBA was on hand in large numbers to help small business owners and homeowners find what resources were available to them to help them recover and rebuild. I do want to echo the concern raised by my colleague, Senator Markey, about the freeze on federal funding. I know there has been a subsequent statement saying that the freeze order has been lifted, but not the freeze. None of us really know how to make heads or tails of that. But what concerns me is that even if the administration says that help to individuals will not be affected by this, if federal funding to SBA is curtailed, then it means SBA cannot make loans to individuals and to small businesses. And at a time when Californians desperately need that help, any delay, any uncertainty will just add additional injury. I've also been distressed by some of the calls to condition funding to California. California has contributed more to the recovery of other states than any other state in the union. And I want to ask you, first of all, to recommit to something we discussed privately, and that is to ensuring, if confirmed, that all states, not just California, but all states receive speedy relief for disaster victims and survivors without regard for whether a state is red or blue or green or yellow or anything else. Are you committed to, in a colorblind, political affiliation blind way, make sure that SBA assistance is speedily provided to small businesses in every state?
Senator, I appreciated our time in being in your office and discussing this important matter. Obviously, my prayers are with California, but our efforts will be there as well. As President Trump demonstrated by his first official trip, typically presidents might fly outside the country. He went to California. He immediately appointed a task force, getting the very capable Rick Grinnell involved. I think the president's actions have demonstrated his support for disaster relief. He's done it effectively in his last term, and I will support his efforts and leadership to ensure the people of California have the resources they need under President Trump's leadership.
Well, let me just say I was grateful the president came to Los Angeles. I felt that if he saw the damage, he could not help but be moved, and I think and hope that he was. I am concerned, though, about some of the statements he has made about tying disaster assistance to the passage of completely unrelated voter ID laws or, frankly, any other unrelated policy matter. Let me also raise the need to, not just with respect to the disaster in California, but elsewhere, make sure that the SBA is proceeding apace with a sense of urgency, that it is efficiently and effectively processing loan applications. I realize the balance is difficult because you have to avoid fraud, and there was massive fraud in among some who are applying for COVID relief. We do not want to see that repeated. But nevertheless, we don't want to see excessive delays either. Frankly, I think firing the Inspector General harms the ability to ferret out waste and fraud and abuse. But are you committed to doing everything you can to provide speedy attention to SBA applications while providing at the same time safeguards to avoid fraud?
Yes, I am, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Congratulations, Senator Loeffler, on your nomination, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Welcome to all your family and friends who are here with you this afternoon. New Hampshire, like many of the states represented on this committee, has over 99% of its businesses who are small businesses. I certainly agree with the fact that small businesses are the lifeblood of this country. 2/3 of jobs are created from small businesses. My favorite statistic about our small businesses is that they create 16 times more patents than large businesses. So it's critical that we provide assistance to ensure that they thrive. Now, I heard from one of our businesses in New Hampshire yesterday that sells agricultural equipment to universities, and they help research feed efficiency to help farmers. He was worried that the halt to funding this week, so the order that freezes spending, caused him to worry about his businesses. So what would you say to that business owner so that they're reassured that their orders are going to continue?
Senator, I appreciate the chance to meet with you in your office and with your staff and your leadership in this committee as well. Certainly, the facts are that no individual assistance was or is part of that pause. What the president is rightfully doing is fulfilling his commitment that overwhelmingly Americans agree with, which is to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in spending programs. And it's not uncommon for presidents to come in and put a pause on agency discretionary funds that could be contributing to the problems we have with debt, with inflation, and there's no bigger champion of small businesses than President Trump. He's told me personally that small business is big business, and he gets it. So small businesses can be assured that they will have a champion in me as well. Having been raised in a small family business, I know the risks that small business operators bear every day, and we will ensure that they have a voice in this administration, and they do.
Well, I certainly agree that it's reasonable to review how programs are working, and that we all should be in favor of getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. That doesn't help anybody. I think what's unprecedented about the current situation is the uncertainty that it creates for so many of the people who benefit from those programs, and the fact that it's so broad and far-reaching. I enjoyed the opportunity to meet with you, and thank you for coming in and talking. One of the things that we discussed was the importance of our field offices within the SBA, and I was pleased that Chair Ernst mentioned the importance of ensuring that we keep people in the field offices and not reduce those staff members, because that's where so much of the help for our small businesses comes from. So can you reassure us that you will focus to make sure that the district offices have the support they need and are able to staff up in the way that helps our small businesses?
Absolutely, Senator. If confirmed, I can assure you we will put an emphasis on the field. And we have in the SBA 10 regional offices and then 68 field district offices. And the great aspect of this is we can be out with our entrepreneurs, with our small businesses, not only delivering capital, but the technical support and counseling that they need to succeed. Because we know that when small businesses have the counseling and mentorship that they need to fill in any gaps, they are more successful. And I've heard so many great stories from small businesses, I know you hear them every day, who rely on just that extra little help to become successful. I've seen them in our own community. So you have my commitment, and I look forward to visiting your state as well.
Good, thank you. We look forward to having you come to New Hampshire. One of the most important roles you will have is as a spokesperson for small businesses. I was pleased that President Trump continues to maintain the SBA administrator as a member of his cabinet. I think that's very important. And one of the issues that I've been proud to work on that I think we need to continue to focus on for our small businesses is helping them access foreign markets, because so many, 99% of markets are outside of the United States, but only about 3% of small and medium-sized businesses do business outside of the United States. I was proud to help create the State Trade Expansion Program, the STEP program. I would hope that, again, you would commit to continuing to support that program and helping our small businesses get into those international markets.
Certainly the STEP program is a very appealing program to understand how we can broaden our work with exports, and small businesses can play a tremendous role there. I look forward to working with you and the entire committee to see where we can broaden the export program and make this more efficient and to deliver more wins for small businesses.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you, Senator Shaheen. I'll recognize Senator Young for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, Senator Loeffler. It's great to see you here today.
Hi, Senator Markey, Ranking Member Markey, for your questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair, very much. On Monday night, President Trump's budget office issued a memo that directed agencies to cut off all federal spending outside of payments to individuals. The Trump administration issued this order even though this spending was authorized and appropriated by Congress and intended to benefit the American people. So my first question is very straightforward. Do you believe that this action by the President to cut off federal funding authorized and appropriated by Congress was lawful?
Senator, I disagree with the premise of your question because the money was certainly, with regard to the agencies, discretionary in many cases, but I fully agree with President Trump's decision to stop wasteful spending. It resulted in a landslide victory that many Americans were waiting for relief against excessive government spending that has skyrocketed inflation in this country.
He froze all programs. He did not freeze programs that had waste, fraud, and abuse. He froze all programs. Do you think that's lawful, that he can freeze all programs?
With all due respect, I completely disagree. Not all programs were frozen at all. He specifically in the OMB called out programs related to illegal DEI programs and programs that effectively linked to the Green New Deal that picks winners and losers. And so I think Americans breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that the waste, fraud, and abuse is going to get out of this government. It's going to
No, wait a minute. No. On the next day, OMB did put out a statement saying funds for small businesses are not subject to the order. So he did not single out of these programs initially. They were under this cloud of freezing all programs. It had to be clarified. And that's good for small businesses, but only for now. This uncertainty, the cloud which was placed over the head of small businesses across the country, that could return at any moment. It's just a dangerous precedent that the President set. So,
Senator, if I could add, there was no pause in the individual assistance.
I hope that that you would hold President Trump to upholding the law. And if President Trump asked you to do anything illegal or unconstitutional in your role as SBA administrator, would you say no?
Ranking Member Markey, the president is not going to ask me to do that. I'm not going to create a hypothetical situation here. I will faithfully uphold the law, and President Trump is fighting for Americans
The president
to get
has
back.
already acted illegally twice in the last 5 days. He
I
fired the
respectfully
inspector.
disagree.
He fired the inspectors general. That was illegal under the law. He froze all funding on Monday night. That was also against the law. So it's not as though he won't ask you to do something illegal, unconstitutional. He's been doing it all week, and this is the first week. So let me move on. Since its creation in 1982,
Ranking Member Markey, if
the
I could just
SBI
for the record note that these were not illegal actions. I support the president's actions. It's in his right to select the members of the executive branch. That's what he was doing. And he certainly
president-
is in the right to stop wasteful spending, as most
president
presidencies
violated a
do
statute
when they
by
come in to
firing-
cause wasteful spending. Thank you.
No, the president violated a statute by firing the inspector general. It requires 30 days' notice. It's a statute passed by Congress, signed by a president. It's a violation of law. He does not have the ability to be a king.
Senator, I believe
dictator.
there's precedent for this, and
He has
it's in
to
his right as the
follow
head of the
law.
executive.
Now, let me move on to SBIR, which has had staggering success across the country, and especially in Massachusetts. Overall, Massachusetts has received 26,000 SBIR and STIR grants, $9 billion in funding, and I strongly believe in these programs and their potential for just supercharging our economy, as those programs have in Massachusetts and states all across the country. And when I met with you, you mentioned that SBIR awards should be awarded on a merit basis. And I agree wholeheartedly that merit drives innovation. So will you commit to working with me and the committee to ensuring that any SBIR, STTR reauthorization effort maintains a merit-based process and does not limit innovation?
Absolutely, Ranking Member Markey. If I have the honor of being confirmed, I will look forward to working with you, and I know we have a lot of common ground in support of small businesses, particularly the SBIR. And for those watching, it's the Small Business Innovation Research Program that allows the United States to be at the forefront of technological, biomedical, and other types of national security related technology, research, and innovation that is so important to this country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I now yield 5 minutes to myself.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mrs. Loeffler, welcome. As part of my responsibility as a member of this committee, as well as all the other committees on which I sit, I ask the following two initial questions of all nominees who come before any of my committees. So I'll ask you, since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No, Senator.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement relating to this kind of conduct?
No, Senator.
During the pandemic, you opposed Planned Parenthood health centers receiving PPP loans for ideological reasons, even though, like other nonprofits, they were eligible for loans, as later determined by SBA's own Inspector General. Last week, the president fired the IG without proper notice as required by law. And it's clear that President Trump believes he can do whatever he wants. As the administrator, should you be confirmed, would you commit to implementing SBA programs in a fair and impartial manner?
Senator Hirono, let me first say I hope that we could be able to meet. I requested several meetings. I keep the people of Maui in my prayers. I know that they're still struggling through the disaster that occurred about 18 months ago, and I hope that we can work together. But let me correct, with all due respect, the premise of both premises of your question. I objected to the Planned Parenthood receipt of COVID relief loans because they did not fit the parameters of the
Actually, Ms.
program
Loeffler,
because of the affiliation
you do know
requirements.
that the IG said, took a contrary position. So all I'm asking is whether you can be fair and impartial in being the administrator of SBA, a very important position, as you say. There are so many small businesses throughout our country. So just a A simple affirmation that you can do so is what I'm asking.
Senator, I will faithfully uphold all of the laws and ethics rules.
Well, the thing is that, as I mentioned with President Trump, the laws that he likes are the ones he likes, and then the ones he doesn't like, he considers them to be illegal, but I will move on. As a senator, you co-sponsored the resolution recognizing Ryan Sicknick, the U.S. Capitol Police officer who was brutally attacked during the January 6th insurrection and who later died. As a result, last week the president issued blanket pardons for the January 6th insurrectionists, including those responsible for attacking Officer Sicknick. Do you agree with the president's decision to pardon these violent offenders? Yes or no?
Yes, Senator, I strongly support President's pardon. These individuals were denied due process, and it's time to get past political persecution in this country. That's what Americans voted for.
Mrs. Loeffler, they were not denied due process because they were tried and found guilty, and some of them even admitted their guilt. So I am disappointed that you agree that these violent, basically criminals, should be pardoned. Then we get to the Lahaina wildfire. In 2023, Lahaina experienced wildfires that devastated the entire community, including schools, homes, businesses, and more. Key to that recovery, their recovery, has been what I've described as the federal family of agencies, which of course includes FEMA and SBA. Last week, the president proposed eliminating FEMA, and he said, quote, "Let the states take care of the tornadoes and the hurricanes and all of the other things that happen," end quote. So I have seen the devastation in Lahaina and the role FEMA and SBA played in the recovery. The SBA itself provided hundreds of millions of dollars in loans to help Lahaina recover. It would be a huge mistake to eliminate SBA's role in disaster response and relief and have states fend for themselves. Do you agree with the president's recent comments that states should be left to fend for themselves during and after natural disasters? That's another yes or no question.
Senator, I disagree with the premise. The president strongly supports disaster relief. He was on the ground just last week in North Carolina.
Well, unfortunately,
and California.
he also said
I also
that
mentioned
states-
Hawaii in my opening remarks, that we do support the continued relief there.
So you support the continuing involvement of the SBA in recovery?
Yeah, and the president's been clear that
Thank you.
individual assistance will not be paused.
I'm glad you do, and that you support the continuing role, important role of SBA. You know, when you were running for U.S. Senate, time flies.
Yes, the senator's
So,
time
I-
has expired.
I think, are you having a second round?
We can do a second round, yes, Senator
If not,
Hirono.
I'll certainly submit questions for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hirono. Next, I will recognize Senator Budd for 5.
Small businesses in the state of Washington and our military and Hanford cleanup. And so really great lessons that I think could be applied broader to other areas of the government. And great to see our new ranking member, Senator Markey. I know I'm probably feeling ancient at the moment, but it's not that long ago when Senator Kerry was the chairman of this committee, and he brought a lot of energy to the SBIR and other important technology startup issues that were a big part of the discussion at that time. So look forward to working with both of you on the committee. And it's good to see my former colleague again. Congratulations on your nomination. You and I had a chance to talk briefly in the office. I wanted to bring up a couple of things. One, we had this question to Mr. Lutnick today at our Commerce hearing, but do you support the Minority Business Development Authority?
Senator, thank you for your time in your office. I enjoyed our conversation. Certainly, I appreciate that program that the Commerce Department runs and see that there's potential for collaboration between SBA. I really do support working across the administration to ensure our resources are utilized and we don't have overlap in our programs, and that they're serving Americans who need those services the most.
Thank you. And will you work with me to make sure that the Department of Agriculture meets this same small business set-aside challenge that DOD has so successfully done. But in this case, the Department of Agriculture really isn't giving our small mills the access that they need. And so will you work with me to make sure that those important SBA issues are addressed at the Department of Ag?
Senator, I appreciate our conversation about your timber business. I think if confirmed, I would look forward to working with Secretary Rollins to ensure that we have a collaborative relationship. I understand there was previously an MOU with the Department of Agriculture, and hope that we can collaborate to support small businesses in that regard as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And when it comes to, let's just carry that on. One of the reasons why we want this infrastructure is because if you think about reducing the fuel that we need, and some of the ideas like cross-laminated timber, you need to have the mills in those regions. And so to get the mills, you have to have the agreement that you're going to give them some supply. But now look at the disaster we just saw in, California, and we realize this situation is, we already knew this in the Northwest. We've had our share of pretty big dramatic fires, but there was a border crossing issue in Sumas where a town was flooded, and then a town of Malden where a fire wiped through the town. Over 300,000 acres burned in wildfires in my state just in 2024. So how do we make sure that we keep politics? I feel like so much politics happened on federal funding in the last few years. How do we keep the politics out of it and disagreements and make sure? There was a case on the Malden fire where it was delayed for months about a disagreement between the president then and our governor, and it took a new administration. And this was even though Kathy McMorris Rogers and I were working together to say, let's do these funds. And how will you help us make delivering disaster assistance urgently without all this noise that we're hearing?
Senator, I appreciate the question, and I think, and certainly your state has had its share of disaster. You had the bomb cyclone in November that, and on ongoing recovery from that. I think Americans were stunned by the politicization of the hurricane response under FEMA, where they refused to go to homes with Trump signs in the front yards. Americans want to see the end to that. We should not be politicizing our disaster response. I think that that's something that we have to restore confidence in, and certainly the SBA will be working with the Trump administration to restore integrity to the relief efforts.
I don't know whether the chair has had this issue, but probably, because there's disasters everywhere. And that is this whole debate about the way the funding model works currently in taking care of communities who've experienced disasters. The urban communities, because they have density, are taken better care of, and the rural areas, although a rural community is a rural community. Sumas is an example. It's right by the border. It hangs together. If Sumas isn't there, I'm not sure we can sustain that border. What will happen is it'll get closed down, and then what? All the traffic will then have to go down I-5. So it's a bad idea. Or in the Met-Tal, we had an economy that was devastated, and people were like, no, we're not going to help you because you don't really have the same ratio. I'm like, it's a juggernaut of an economy. Just because it doesn't have density doesn't mean that it isn't a big problem. So the GAO concluded that the SBA needs to recognize that rural communities experience disasters differently. Not really differently, they're devastated. It's just they're not in the same density. So as we consider how to make SBA loans for small, vulnerable rural communities more viable, do you think businesses and homeowners, we want them to return to these areas. We don't want to see a community, in our case, these are communities that sit on close proximity to the Cascades, but they're a huge tourism economy for the whole state, so they have a big footprint. So what are your thoughts on how we implement this SBA change, working with our colleagues to get a better recognition of the economic impact that disadvantages rural communities?
Well, Senator, I would love to work with you on that, to visit your state, to understand.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chair Ernst. Thank you, Senator. Great to be with you. And thank you to your family and those who are here to support you. As I hope you know, your predecessor in this position in the previous two administrations, I've had a particularly strong working relationship with. SBA Administrator McMahon came to visit Delaware several times. We worked well together. I would agree. My dad said the same thing, says Senator Young's comment. My dad started and ran a small manufacturing business, and he thought this was the most exciting committee I could possibly on. And it has been in the past a very productive committee. My hope is that we will get back to churning out legislation that works with you, that we will appropriately authorize and appropriate funds, review funds and programs. When we had a chance to meet 2 weeks ago, one of the programs I brought up was SCORE, which I suspect everyone knows was founded in Wilmington, Delaware, thus my obsession with SCORE. But I think one of the highest federally appropriated dollar for actual impact programs in history. There's more than 10,000 volunteers through SCORE who deliver roughly 4 million hours a year of free business plan consulting. SCORE clients return $59 in tax revenue for every dollar appropriated to SCORE. It needs to be reauthorized. We need to look at it to ensure it's operating well and that there's accountability. Would you support SCORE and its reauthorization and work with me to achieve a bipartisan reauthorization if confirmed?
Senator Coons, I thank you for the time you shared in your office. I was also just delighted to hear now about your dad's sentiments. I agree. And I look forward to working with you to review SCORE, see how it can be made more robust, and to evaluating the program and sharing all of that data with this committee so that we have a very collaborative approach to ensuring our efforts are making a difference for small businesses. As you note, it's definitely had an impact, and we want to make sure that programs that work are made available to more entrepreneurs.
Well, those 10,000 volunteers help more than 300,000 entrepreneurs, so I'm very hopeful we can work together on that. A piece of legislation Senator Rubio and I, now Secretary Rubio and I, worked on for several Congresses was to help make sure that SBIR grantees actually produce commercialized technology. About half of SBIR awards lead to commercialized technology, but half don't. And this would specifically authorize some of the pre-market scale-up costs through SBIR. It's called the Ramp for Innovators Act. The SBA plays a critical role in coordinating SBIR activities across the whole government. I'd be interested in what your priorities would be for SBIR as a program, and whether you would help work with us on reauthorization and ensuring that it doesn't just fund endless research, but actually funds the leap to the marketplace.
Absolutely, Senator. I think the small business innovation research grants are critical to solving some of the challenges America has in scaling our technological innovations quickly. The program gives more dry powder and runway to these important technological breakthroughs, whether in the area of bioscience, technology, AI, drones, mission-critical things to our national defense that would not be possible without the support of research institutions. So I look forward to collaborating with this entire committee on the reauthorization and reviewing the program for where it can be strengthened to produce more efficient results, and to highlighting some of the wins to ensure that these are wins that generate a powerful return on taxpayer investments.
Another concern I've expressed in previous Congresses is the amount of federal contracting money that's going to small businesses. Small businesses continue to get a robust piece of the total federal pie. I think it's 28%, which exceeds the target, but it's for a smaller and smaller number of larger and larger small business firms. I'd also be interested in working with you to make sure that we actually are contracting federally as broadly as possible to as many small businesses as possible. I think, as literally every colleague has referenced, 98% of the businesses in my state, even in the state of Delaware, which has a whole lot of incorporation, are small businesses. Would you work with me to make sure that we achieve those goals in terms of small business contracting?
Absolutely, Senator. If confirmed, I would like to work with you on that. I do agree that this program is vital for small businesses to have an awareness of and to have access to the program. If the programs become too complex that only a select few can find their way in, that voids the program's foundational beginnings. So I would look forward to working with the entire committee to ensure small businesses have an additional path to success. And I also wanted to acknowledge Administrator McMahon and her great work, and I hope that we can have the same constructive, collaborative, great relationship working for small businesses. Thank
I
you.
look forward to it. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Strader. Next, we will move to Ranking Member Markey for his questions.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ambassador Loeffler, you called Trump's tariffs the single greatest salvation for small businesses and said that small businesses are grateful for tariffs. So do you acknowledge that Trump's tariffs raise costs for small businesses that are jeopardizing their livelihoods and their employees? That's what I'm hearing.
Ranking Member Markey, thank you for your question. This president is fighting for the American worker and American industry. And what we're seeing is that President Trump's entire economic agenda is counterinflationary, and tariffs have been imposed against our small business unfairly, tariff and non-tariff trade barriers, disadvantaging not only our small businesses,
So in the
but our
short term,
workers
in the
who
short
have
term,
5 million who
in the
have
short
lost
term,
their
have the
jobs.
tariffs increased costs for small businesses in the United States?
No, Ranking Member Markey,
They have
they
not.
have not. No, core inflation for 2 months in a row have fallen to 4-year lows, and under
I'm talking about
President
for
Trump's
small.
first
I'm talking about.
administration in
I'm talking about
2017,
for
we
small.
had
I'm talking
record
about small
low
businesses.
inflation.
Have they increased it for small businesses? The
No,
cost.
that's not what we're seeing at all in the field.
Okay.
In fact, what we're seeing is that small businesses are investing, as evidenced by the 80% increase in loan volume compared to the prior administration. So we see small businesses investing
There's not
to
an
grow.
80%. There has not been an 80% increase from January 20th to today in investment. That is absolutely inaccurate. Just
look,
saying that
that's
is absolutely
absolutely-
that is absolutely not accurate. So I just want to tell you,
Ranking
here's
Member
what
Markey,
I've
there
heard
has
from
been a
here's what I've
80%
heard from
increase
small
in loan
businesses
volume
in
for small business
Massachusetts.
lending.
It is absolutely not true. Here's what I've heard from small businesses in Massachusetts. A small coffee shop in Chatham is worried rising costs will drive customers to bigger businesses. A toy designer in North Andover furloughed staff and is hesitant to place new orders, not knowing what tariff policy will be in a few weeks. A 100% U.S. electric bike manufacturer in Boston is considering entirely shuttering their doors because of the increased supply cost. And these are not just anecdotes. A recent survey conducted by CNBC showed that 70% of small business owners expect a recession, and almost 60% are concerned about tariffs harming their businesses. So again, Administrator Loeffler, what do you say to worried businesses like these? How is SBA helping these small businesses getting crushed by the Trump tariffs?
This president is making sure that small businesses are never again put in the position of relying on the Chinese Communist Party to manufacture their goods and services. We saw during 2020, during COVID, the excessive reliance we have on the Chinese Communist Party. I suspect manufacturers at home are delighted to hear that this president is fighting for them. I've certainly heard that with the hundreds of manufacturers I've walked on the floors with since I've been in this job. They are thrilled this president is fighting for them. And I've heard
Well, I'm going to
firsthand
give you
that the
another.
unfair
I will
trade
give you. I will
policies,
give
which
you
are
another
documented-
example. When a witness last week, sitting right where you are, Julie Robbins, who is an owner of Earth Quaker Devices, a 100% USA-based manufacturer, told us that when she asked SBA for help with alternative domestic suppliers, SBA offered her a product that cost 17 times more than her current supplier. She cannot take on more debt. She doesn't want more debt. Small businesses don't want more debt. And the sustained losses would likely prevent her from getting an additional loan, even with a perfect credit score. And Julie is now considering offshoring manufacturing. So SBA should be supporting our small businesses, making sure they can continue to manufacture in the U.S., not encouraging offshore manufacturing.
Senator,
And
I'm
let me
pleased
just
to-
ask one
can I
quick
just
question.
add that we yesterday announced the Make Offshoring Great Again portal that connects small businesses to 1 million onshore production facilities, and this is the first
Well,
of its
again,
kind
the example
ever.
we had last week was a 17 times higher
Well, this is for all
price.
small businesses
So
now to explore, for the first
that
time
was-
ever, using tools available to the private sector that we've made free of
That's-
cost
that
to the
is-
small
that-
businesses.
Let me ask
So-
one final question. Has Doge had access to personal or sensitive small business information at SBA?
Senator, I've been very pleased to work with Doge. They are complying with all laws.
Have they had access
No, they-
to personal or
no.
sensitive small
No,
business
Senator.
information?
No, Senator.
They have not had access?
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and just for clarification, Administrator Loeffler, I believe you said that that 80% increase was in SBA lending to
7A.
small businesses, right, through the 7A loan program. So could you restate that again so that we hear you clearly?
Yeah. The increase in small business lending through the SBA's 7A loan program compares the first 100 days of President Trump's administration to the first 100 days of the Biden administration.
That's what I thought you said. So
Are you
thank you.
comparing that to the final 3 months of the Biden administration?
She just clarified.
No, she did
Frank.
not.
No,
No,
she
she did not.
She just did while you were visiting.
The-
Would you please restate?
Yeah, the loan
Administrator
data for the
Loeffler?
SBA's 7A loan program relates to an 80% increase in loan volume for President Trump's first 100 days compared to President Biden's first 100 days.
Right, but that is unfair because he was in the middle of the recession that
Senator,
he
with
had
all
just
due respect,
inherited
loan
from Trump.
volume's up
The
compared to
only
last
fair
year.
comparison is to the last 90 days of Biden and the first 90 days of Trump. Okay, so that number of 80% is completely irrelevant.
Year-over-year loan volume is up too.
Irrelevant.
So she was giving statistics, and I appreciate those statistics. So next, we will move to Senator Hickenlooper for 5 minutes of questions. So you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As someone who I was a small business person, I had an SBA loan. What is the average length of process for a loan? So when I did it, it took about a year, 11 and a half months. My understanding is it takes about 8 to 12 months now.
Senator, first of all, thank you for your leadership in small businesses. I commend all of our small business leaders for what they do for Main Streets. I will say that the loan process has improved because we've re-strengthened the SOP back to what it was, making it more predictable for our lenders.
No, I get that, and I admire that, and I admit that, but you're giving us statistics of the first 100 days and saying you've given all these loans got completed. Those loans were all started under Biden. And if you look at Biden's first 100 days, those loans were all started by President Trump in his previous administration. So to say that they're up 80% is flipped. In other words, those loans take at least 6 months to close. So you're closing loans that were started by Biden, and he was trying to close loans at a lower number that were started under Trump.
But these are actually based on closings. No small business would close on a loan that they didn't believe that could invest and grow in their business. So the closing rate during the term is incredibly important. It's a vote of confidence. No small business is going to take out a loan if they don't believe the conditions would support its
The
improvement.
number of
That's why we're here today,
closings,
is to
and
talk
I
about
appreciate that, but the
expanding
number of closings is based on how much work has gotten, how many you've got in the pipeline, and that all happened in the previous administration. I worry also, like Senator Markey, in terms of the cost of tariffs to small business. All I hear about when I'm in Colorado is that they can't find, it's not just the components of what they're putting together, their entire supply chain is at risk. And again, raising the caps on the 7A, I think that's a great thing, but that mostly helps larger small businesses. The little guys are struggling. It took me 4 years before I was able to qualify for an SBA loan. We've got a lot of outdoor recreation industry in Colorado. It's really all across the country now. It's a $1.2 trillion industry. And they're kind of freaking out. If you look at the running, hiking, hunting, fishing, boating, kayaking, so much of that industry, and it's a very broad industry, but a lot of it is apparel and footwear. And when you talk to almost every one of them, They are largely manufactured in Asia, not so much in China anymore. They're manufactured in Vietnam and Cambodia and Bangladesh. I mean, people have been moving away from China like crazy over the last number of years, last 6 or 8 years. The margins are too thin to really genuinely imagine we're going to bring back both the supply chain and the actual manufacturing in the United States. The margins are paper thin, and it seems like a more useful thing to do would be to work with the Caribbean, what they call CAFTA, but it's the trade association in the Caribbean, or with either Mexico or Canada, more likely Mexico, for some of this, footwear and apparel. Is that something you see in the future?
Senator, what I see in the future is advocating for American jobs and American industry, which is exactly what President Trump is doing. This is why small towns like I'm from, a town of 600, have been hollowed out because of the loss of manufacturing. You may not think a job making socks is a good job. I just met a manufacturer last night at a small business roundtable. They love their job. They love their factory. It's a small factory. They do great things. It's textiles made in America. We have microchips being made in America now. We can make things in America, and this narrative that we can't make things here affordably is absolutely demonstrably false, and it's not about big manufacturers. I've been to great manufacturers with less than 50 employees who will benefit from this upsized loan program.
No, I get it. I am a small business person. I am born of that ilk, and I am part of that ilk. But everyone I talk to is in a state of terror that they feel they will not be able to get through this whatever is 18 months. It could be 2 years, 4 years. When you're looking at, even if we go to a 10% tariff, for truly small businesses, that is an unsupportable burden. It puts their entire business at risk. It's something they've, in many cases, have worked their whole lives to get the opportunity to start and to create, and now suddenly they're going to get the rug pulled out from under them for something they have no control over. And I'm not sure I see the benefit of that 10% tariff, which essentially it's got to be paid in raising prices or lowering your sales. You're just going to have to raise enough prices and accept the fact you're going to have those lower sales. In either case, the public's going to pay for it one way or another, either have less things to buy or a higher cost. And to what purpose, right? To do a big tax cut? I'm not sure. I don't see the benefit.
Senator.
Thank you. If you'd like to respond, Administrator.
Yeah. Our small businesses have been the victims of unfair trade policy for decades. They have had to compete against unfair non-tariff and tariff trade barriers. We have to level the playing field. It's absolutely fair to them. But the number one thing I hear right now is small businesses need Congress to pass this tax reform, this tax cut bill. And that is the number one thing, small businesses. That would be an immediate tax increase that would raise taxes on small businesses higher than what small businesses in China pay the Chinese Communist Party. So that is the number one thing I hear. I understand there are short-term impacts during this critical period of negotiation with 75 countries that is going to make trading fair for all, and these small manufacturers are delighted that they're finally going to be able to compete on a level playing field.
Okay, thank you, Senator Hickenlooper, and thank you for mentioning socks. We do make socks in one of my very small rural Iowa towns in northeast
we have a sock
Iowa.
manufacturer.
Do you have
in
a
Colorado,
sock manufacturer?
Love
it.
Smart War.
Vice Chair Murray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for your accommodation. I'm running between several appropriates committees this afternoon, so I appreciate the opportunity to ask Administrator Loeffler a few questions. Now, first of all, I've been hearing from small businesses in my state about the SBA grants that have been canceled and frozen. One example is you canceled a $2.5 million regional innovation cluster contract in Washington State that would have supported small businesses that were working on carbon capture and utilization and storage. It's not an isolated case, but that is a program that Congress historically funded with strong bipartisan support. I wanted to ask you today, why have you canceled funding for a program that has bipartisan support and really drives small business growth in our emerging sectors?
Vice Chair, thank you for the question. Our regional innovation clusters are certainly mechanisms to deliver support technical assistance to small businesses in various regions based on expertise in that region and the needs of that region. I have broad authority in this administration to reshape the regional innovation clusters, and we are undertaking a review of those programs to right-size them and form them to where the needs are most urgent. Right now, we've just announced that we have a regional innovation cluster centered around manufacturing because of the skills and efforts and the focus needed on that right now. But we intend to continue to pursue these programs based on the regional needs, and we'll be working.
I would just say this is a regional need, and I would just ask you to go back and look at that one. Happy to provide you information, but it really is a critical one for our region.
I'd be happy to work with your office.
Okay, and I wanted to say, I met with some small business owners in Seattle a few weeks ago. One of them runs a coffee shop and imports green tea. And like a lot of small business owners that I'm talking to, and you know, they operate on very thin margins, so the current tariffs are hitting them really hard. We don't grow green tea in the United States. I doubt we ever will. And given that that increased cost imposed by those tariffs could really, he told me, shutter his business, what should they do in this situation?
So this period of negotiation, is not one where we don't acknowledge their near-term effects, but for the long term, we want to have a situation.
This is a small business; they can't last much longer.
Well, what we're focused on is ensuring that we never get in the position again of having unfair trade. And that's what President Trump's fighting for. That's what we're fighting for. We just yesterday put out our Make Onshoring Great Again directory to ensure that small businesses have access to a million suppliers across this country that can offer alternatives to them.
But this country doesn't produce green tea, and this small business is not going to last more than a few months. I hear your bigger scheme is that someday this will all pay off. This small business won't be there. I'm just asking you,
yes.
What are they supposed to do? Are you going to do you have anything drafted? Are you looking at anything that can help these small businesses who are on the verge of closing right now? And they can't wait 2, 3, 5, 6 months from now.
Well, what the SBA is offering is certainly the capital, the counseling that they need, as well as import and export loan financing to deal with these times of uncertainty. But the uncertainty is going to be short-lived. President Trump already has 75 countries at the negotiating table. We've already cut deals with China and the UK, and there's more to come. And small businesses are benefiting because inflation is down, because we're having $10 trillion of investment that we've never had in this country. We have economic opportunity on the horizon that is really unprecedented.
I appreciate that you have an optimistic view. I'm just telling you, having sat down and met with these small businesses, whether it's shutting the regional SBA office or canceling these grants to support our entrepreneurs, or these tariffs that are having impact on, there are small businesses that will not make it based on your optimism.
And there are small businesses that are going to be struggling if we don't pass this tax bill too. So small businesses unfortunately bear a lot of headwinds of uncertainty right now, specifically with regard to the tax bill that will affect 100% of all
I'm
small
not here
businesses.
to talk about the tax bill. I'm talking about our little shop owners that aren't going to make
Well,
it.
small businesses
but I
obviously face
appreciate
a number
your response.
of,
Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chairman Hagerty, Ranking Member Reed. Thank you, Administrator Loeffler. Good to be with you again. It is unfortunate we don't have in front of us a full budget. That's the case of all the appropriations subcommittees on which I serve. What's the timeline on which you'll be providing us with an actual budget for us to review and work with you on?
Senator, we hope to have it to you in the coming weeks. I don't have a hard deadline for you, but as soon as we have it, we will be providing that to you.
As you can imagine, it's sort of difficult for us to do our work if the budget hasn't arrived and we can't have it in front of us. I think my small home state is typical. Small businesses are 98% of all the businesses and employ 2/3 of our workforce, and the SBA is crucial for those who want to start a new business. It provides a great resource for new and existing businesses, and I want to briefly at the outset recognize the service of Michelle Harris, the SBA State Director, who is retiring after 35 years of federal service and who dedicated her career to lots of small businesses. I am concerned by actions you've taken to cut over 40% of the workforce at SBA and close regional offices. And from what we have in the skinny budget, you're proposing fairly significant cuts to an agency that I think does very important work. I wanted to focus for a moment, if I could, on a small but mighty part of SBA, which is the SCORE program. SCORE, as you know, was founded in my hometown of Wilmington by DuPont volunteers, and it is the definition of an efficient government program. There are 10,000 SCORE volunteers all over the country in every SBA office and district that help new small businesses launch. In fact, last year, these 10,000 volunteers helped launch 63,000 small businesses. And Congress appropriated $17 million to it. With a full-year continuing resolution, this program should receive another $17 million. In your confirmation hearing, you agreed you'd want to work on a bipartisan reauthorization of this program. And the most recent study said that for every dollar we appropriate to SCORE, it generates $45 just in new federal tax revenue. So I think this is a wonderful program, well worth saving. I understand you're here defending a budget that is not complete or finished and that may reflect choices not your own. Just that's always true. Could you provide us with an update on the funding that's been appropriated and whether it's being dispersed? And tell me anything about how you see SCORE fitting into the mission of the agency to deliver highly efficient and effective support for small business.
Senator, thank you for your question, and congratulations, Michelle. And Senator, I also want to thank you for your support of the Made in America manufacturing bill. Look, as I've traveled across the country and done dozens of roundtables with our resource partners that provide technical assistance, be it SCORE, Women's Business Centers, our small business development centers, and others, I've seen a fair amount of confusion by small businesses about who they should be working with. And within the budget constraints, it's important that we unify and streamline this agency so that small businesses have the benefit of going direct to the agency, which we have 1,000 small business development centers that operate across the country that provide direct access to our resource partners as well as direct access to our lenders and the SBA. And so those SBDCs are critical in delivering those services to our small businesses. And we think that unifying and streamlining it will create a better user experience for our small businesses and have more accountability for taxpayers of eliminating overlapping services that often result in confusion for our borrowers.
But if I might, I think SCORE fits a unique niche in that it is seasoned, experienced, often retired business executives, people who've got personal experience financing, running, whether it's a manufacturing business, a service business, and at very little cost to the federal government, they provide a service. I hear you on the potentially, we could debate it, confusing array of different centers and missions, but I think SCORE fits a unique window. If I might, with your forbearance, one more question, Mr. Chairman. We also discussed during your confirmation hearing the SBIR program. I recently introduced with Senator Curtis the Ramp for Innovators Act, which expedites the application process, improves technical and business assistance, and focuses more on commercialization. Some have rightfully criticized SBIR grants as leading to circular not moving towards the workplace. This is a bill that Senator Rubio and I previously worked on. SBA plays a critical role in the success of SBIR. Can you assure us when we get your full budget that your agency will have the staffing to successfully implement this valuable program that takes research and innovation to the marketplace?
Senator, we've been reviewing the SBIR program, and we feel that it's languished in the last 4 years and needs attention to achieve the important aims of the program so that critical technologies can be brought to market. And in this, a reauthorization year for SBIR, I look forward to working with you and your office to understand how those programs can be strengthened across all agencies that utilize this important effort. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. I now recognize Senator Rosen, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I want to thank you, too, Administrator Loeffler, for joining us here today. I just want to make a short comment on what Senators Hickenlooper and Hirono have said, because we know that we want to bring back U.S. manufacturing so that we can compete. But when is the real question. How long does this take to happen, and how many businesses will suffer or disappear in the meantime? And that's what we're really talking about with this uncertainty, because this puts people's dreams and their life work at risk or on the chopping block. So I think when we talk about it, this is that bridge where people's dreams will be dissolved. So, but I'm going to move on because we've had so many good conversations, and I want to talk about the importance of SBA as a resource partner. Because SBA's impressive networks of veterans business outreach centers, small business development centers, and women's business centers, we know that they provide critical support to small businesses across the country, having counseled more than 744,000 small businesses and supported over 1 million jobs in 2024 alone. The tailored support provided by Veterans Business Outreach Centers, I'm just going to call them VBOCs, a lot easier, it's important for my state of Nevada, which is home to more than 200,000 veterans and over 23,000 veteran small businesses. We only have 3 million people in Nevada, so it's a good number. I was proud to help secure Nevada's first dedicated in-state VBOC to ensure our veterans and transitioning service members get the support they needed to start a business. And so, Administrator, when we spoke ahead of your conversation, we really seemed that we connected and shared this priority to really support our veteran entrepreneurs. This is your story, bring the value of our community. And so I was really disappointed to see this drastic $167 million that was cut from the SBA's entrepreneurial development program in the president's budget. And this is going to result, sadly, in the closure of hundreds of business resource centers, including 31 VBOCs. Small businesses are being hit hard, like I said, by the Trump tariffs. It's just the uncertainty. People aren't sure how to plan. We're not trying to attack anyone. We want to bring things back, but people just don't know what to do. And they need access to SBA, to the resource partners they've had, to the confidence that they have in their communities and those connections now more than ever. And so my understanding that your plan to address this need is for the SBDCs to provide the same services previously offered by eliminated programs like VBOCs, and I so appreciate this. But the SBA requested only $10 million in additional funding for SBDCs to serve veteran-owned businesses. It's still 46% less than existing funding for the veteran services. It's a step forward, but in the meantime, again, where are folks going to go, and how is this expertise? You're losing staff. These centers in my small state really help. So does SBA acknowledge that organizing all counseling services under SBDCs will make it harder for our veterans to access resources and place even more pressure on our SBDCs? They are really already strained.
Senator, thank you for the question. And there is no bigger champion of our veterans than President Trump, which is why I think we've all seen him upsize the Veterans Administration budget by $5 billion. And I'm pleased to say, particularly as the daughter and granddaughter of veterans, my father started a small business as a result of what he learned in the military, that I am so proud to champion veterans and deliver even more unified, strengthened resources. We've just announced today an MOU with Secretary Collins at the Veterans Administration to share more resources between the small business efforts of the VA.
It's important that veterans
and
often
SBA.
serve veterans, and that's what our VBOCs give us. They hire veterans to serve the veterans who understand the process. So by eliminating them, you've eliminated this kind of unique understanding from veteran to veteran.
I want to correct the assumption that we're eliminating VBOCs. That's absolutely not the case. In fact, the floor of $10 million is a floor, not a ceiling from the SBDCs. But let's be clear, there are 1,000 SBDCs across the country. We have 68 regional offices with veteran specialists in those offices. We have PCRs on military
It took till last year for me
helping.
to get the VBOCs in Nevada. So I just have one more quick question. The SBDCs do provide general counseling and business training, and so under your plan, how will SBA ensure that the SBDCs, again, to the same point, have the advisors that are specifically trained to provide counseling on those unique needs, and how long is it going to how long will veteran businesses have to wait for this transition to be complete? Because again, it's the uncertainty.
They don't have to wait at all, Senator, which is great, because I totally agree with you. We need to serve our veterans better. And in fact, this week alone, we're hosting 15 seminars for our veterans in Boots to Business and Reboot across the country. And we're only going to build on that. In fact, through our partnership with the VA, through our work with SBDCs, through our veterans outreach programs in the region, we're consolidating and unifying our services so that veterans have access to the full suite of SBA. And I'm very proud to say SBA lending to veterans in this calendar year is up 26%.
Will you come meet with folks in my office to give us a list of everything that you're doing so that we can communicate this out in Nevada and be sure that we continue to serve our veteran businesses?
I'd love to meet you and visit with your state as well.
Thank you.
You, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just let me follow up on Senator Van Hollen. Last March, the President said in the Oval Office, I've decided that the SBA, the Small Business Administration, headed by Kelly Loeffler, a terrific person, will handle all of the student loan portfolio. We have a portfolio that's very large. That's a quote from the President. He is reconsidering this decision now?
Senator, what we're focused on is supporting the White House's decisions and ensuring that we're able to take on whatever the President would ask us to do, and we would be working with the Department of Education and with Treasury should such a transition be made. And, you know, it's our agency operates a $444 billion loan portfolio that performs very well. It's a public-private partnership through lenders, much like the Department of Education's program is with outsourced servicing and so forth. But we will be working with the White House on next steps.
Well, this portfolio is $1.6 trillion, and it has 43 million borrowers. And it'd be very difficult, I think, for any agency to assume that, particularly as we progress into the year and we don't have any direction. And also, if you're cutting your workforce by 43%, where will you get the people to run this very complicated loan program? And I must reemphasize what Senator Van Hollen said. You need congressional authorization to make this transfer. And so if you don't propose it, then it can't be done. And I hope you can communicate that back to the White House. Just let me go one final point here on veterans. You're cutting veterans programs, and it seems to me inappropriate. You're cutting the Veterans Outreach programs, which include Veterans Business Outreach Centers, the Boots to Business program, and the Service Disabled Veteran Entrepreneurship Training Program. I think we should be doing more for veterans, not less. So why are you cutting aid to veterans?
Ranking Member, I'm glad you asked. There is no stronger champion of veterans than President Trump, and that's why he plussed up the Veterans Administration budget by $5 billion. And as the daughter and granddaughter of veterans, my father actually started a business based on what he learned in the military for trucking. And I'm proud of the work we're doing at SBA to actually grow our veterans outreach. What we had seen was our veterans work had been crowded out by the DEI initiatives. We've rectified that. We're getting the small business contracting targets for veterans met again by reducing arbitrary DEI limits that the Biden administration had put in. This week alone, we're conducting 15 veterans outreach efforts for Boots to Business and Reboot to serve our veterans in their local communities. And I'm excited to partner with Secretary Collins at the VA for an MOU we have to streamline the Vet Cert and Vet Biz on-ramp into the small business ecosystem, and then also working with the Department of Defense Transition Assistance Program as veterans come into that transition phase and looking at starting a small business. So veterans are going to find that we are not cutting the V-Box. We are simply ensuring that they're working with our small business development centers, of which there are 1,000 across the country, along with our PCRs, which are our procurement center representatives, putting them on base at military installations to better support that small business ecosystem. So I'm really optimistic that we are going to make small business more accessible to more veterans than has ever been true before.
Well, I don't think the numbers are quite as supportive. You are planning to integrate these veterans programs into the SBDCs and providing a $10 million increase this year. Last year, or the last in FY24, the level of congressional funding was $18.5 million. So what you're proposing is a 46% decrease in funding directed to veterans. And the numbers, I don't think, lie.
Ranking member, if you will, that's a floor, that's a $10 million floor minimally that we are putting into VBOX, but also note that we talked about our district outreach at 68 district offices in addition to 1,000 SBDCs. So we have quite a network, and those are already delivering those boots to business and reboot efforts and the outreach on base. So we are going to supercharge the resources that we have and make them front and center for veterans, as opposed to what happened in the last administration where everything was brought back to Washington and the veterans outreach was basically non-existent. There's no stronger champion of of veterans than President Trump and myself, and we are going to make sure that we make a difference working alongside Secretary Collins and the Department of Defense.
Well, thank you, Madam Administrator. Appreciate your testimony. Thank you, Sarah.
Member Reed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Administrator. Earlier this month, you indicated that President Trump's tariffs will bring a period of change for small business, and I think that is right. Many, as I indicated in my opening statement, are very, very concerned about the cost of these tariffs. More than that the National Federation of Independent Businesses in their monthly business index have saw that small business confidence levels have dropped every month since President Trump took office, which indicates that small business people are not exactly feeling yet or even expecting many of the things you described. What are you doing right now to help businesses get through this period of change?
Ranking Member Reed, thank you for your question. Look, President Trump believes in the American worker and American industry. We have to have that back in this country, and the SBA is going to support him in those efforts completely, because what we have seen across this country is a hollowing out of our productive capacity that didn't just cost us 7,000 factories, it cost us 5 million jobs in small towns where I grew up, where our union training center in a town of 600 closed. It was one of the last major employers. So, and that's as manufacturing jobs have left. We can never let that happen again, and we can never let it happen again that small businesses rely on the Chinese Communist Party for their productive supply. We can do better. That's why the SBA is looking to increase onshoring through our lending programs, but also yesterday announced our Make Onshoring Great Again portal that connects small businesses with 1 million suppliers across this country. As I've traveled from East Coast to West Coast, I have seen the incredible productive capacity and capabilities of our hardworking men and women in our factories across this country. And while the media narrative likes to say we can't make things in this country, I'm seeing it done in real time, and I'm seeing an investment in these factories. I'm seeing a skilled workforce being created. I'm seeing jobs and economic opportunities. Just on the factory floor last week, I met a young man. He's 21 years old. He had been at the CNC machine operator for 2 years. He just got married and bought a house. He has no student loan debt. He has a great future ahead of him as a skilled technician. And this is the new color boom that President Trump is going to bring to this country, where we can make things in this country again, where we can export again, where we will have open export markets for small businesses who have 400 pages stacked against them in the U.S. Trade Reps report against our small businesses that no one has fought back on. And so I'm excited to see what's happening across this country. It's a manufacturing renaissance, and I'm grateful to President Trump.
Well, thank you. It's going to take many years to reshore a significant number of businesses. And frankly, many small businesses will not be able to last that long unless SBA actively engages with them, helps them. And I hope you're appreciative of that point. And one of the major reasons we've had a diminution of our manufacturing was the NAFTA agreement, the CAFTA agreement, and the USMCA. And I opposed all those agreements, but it was both Republican and Democrats that passed them. We have to make up for that right now, and SBA has to be in the lead. You indicated that DOGE is working with you, and you also indicated it's nonpartisan. Elon Musk is nonpartisan. Is that your conclusion?
I'm really proud of the work we've done with our
No,
DOGE
I'm going
team.
to ask you a specific question, Director. I know you've learned the filibuster in the United States Senate, and you're demonstrating it quite well, but is Elon Musk nonpartisan?
Look, our DOGE team is a group of young men who are supporting our efforts, and I call the shots at the SBA. I'm the one calling the shots at the SBA, and I appreciate the support I've gotten in terms of some of the quantitative work that I wanted done in analyzing the financial and operational metrics, and I have made all those decisions, and they're based on the business skills I learned over 3 decades.
Does DOGE have access to data of American small businesses?
I can only speak to my team are members of the Small Business Administration, and they comply with all the laws that apply to all small business employees.
They're not DOGE people?
They are members of the Small Business Administration.
They're hired members of the
Correct. They're employees of the SBA.
SBA. Temporary employees or?
They're active and current employees.
Okay. Have DOGE reimbursed the SBA for any support they received from you?
Senator, Chairman, Ranking Member, could you please clarify your question?
Yeah. DOGE goes in, they do quite a bit of work and encounter cost. Do they turn to you and ask to be reimbursed, or what is the salaries typically of these young men?
They are employees of the SBA. I can come back to you if, with regard to any compensation details as an employee, but
I would appreciate that.
Be
Thank
happy
you,
to do that.
Administrator, and I look forward to the second round.
Wonderful lady, you know, Senator Shaheen, and for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Shaheen. You're making me Irish there really quick. Administrator Loeffler, I appreciate your being here. And I think we all support bringing manufacturing back to the United States. Actually, the manufacturing sector in New Hampshire is the biggest sector of our economy. And one of the reasons I'm such a big supporter of the SBA is because the programs that the SBA operates help us build our manufacturing sector. That's the whole point. And that's why I was concerned when I saw the budget requests a 30% cut to staffing of district offices. Administrator Loeffler, in your confirmation hearing, I asked you about ensuring that the district offices have the support and the staff they need. And at that time, you said, "You have my commitment." I'm quoting you now. And you also said, "I can assure you we will put an emphasis on the field." But I can tell you that New Hampshire's district office started with 7 staff this year. Now they're down to only 3. I was at the SBA awards ceremony in New Hampshire 2 weeks ago, and virtually every small business that got an award talked about the help they received from the SBA or the resource partners, the veteran business centers, the women business centers, the SCORE partnership, and I heard a great deal of concern about the capacity of the SBDCs to pick up that whole load right now because they don't have the staffing and they don't have the budget to do that. And so can you tell me if the New Hampshire and other district offices will be exempt from the hiring freeze so they can get back to the staff that they need to support local small businesses, and will they be able to get the resources they need with this level of funding?
Senator, thank you for your question, and I continue to reinforce our commitment to the field. In fact, not only since joining the SBA, when only 10% of the agency was in office. 90% was working from home for 4 years. We brought everyone back to the office, and I committed to having 30% of our staff in the field. We've already done that. Our small businesses, as I travel across the country, say that they've already seen a difference in the small businesses, SBA's activity in the field, and that's because not only are we back at work, but we have a new mission refocusing on serving small businesses and not serving bureaucrats. We're focused on-
Administrator, I appreciate that. As I said, that's why I support the SBA, and I've been a big fan of the SBA since I got involved in public service, because I understand how important they are. That's why I'm so concerned that our SBA office in New Hampshire only has 3 of the 7 staff that they had at the start of the year, and they're worried about whether they can pay their bills and whether they can hire more people. So my question for you is, are they going to be able to be exempt from that hiring freeze? Are they going to be able to hire those staff back, and are they going to have the resources to operate that office?
Yes, we are working on restaffing the offices following some of the early voluntary retirements and making sure that we focus in on the field again, which again is a critical part of our service and technical support delivery along with our resource partners. And so what we're doing is focusing on the field and staffing those offices, and I think we're already seeing the impacts because of the increased loan volume.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but so can you give me some timetable for when they might be able to expect to be able to do the hiring again, to start that process?
Senator, I don't have an exact timetable, but I will work with you and your office to ensure that we do that and ensure that, and we're in constant dialogue. Unlike the prior administration, which had essentially abandoned the field, we are in constant dialogue with our regional and district offices to ensure that.
And I appreciate that, and I'm not interested in comparing the last administration to this administration. I'm interested in seeing what we need to do to ensure that our small businesses in New Hampshire get the help that they need. And that means staffing the Small Business District Office. It means ensuring that those resource agencies that are so critical have the help they need. And it means making sure that the programs that work for business are operated. One of those programs is the STEP program, the State Trade Expansion Program, which I introduced back in 2010 as part of the Small Business Jobs Act. And Chair Ernst and I have worked on making some changes to make it work better. I think it's really important because 95% of markets are outside of the United States, and only about 5% of our small and medium-sized businesses do business outside of the United States, as you know. This is a program that, again, has really made a difference for small businesses in New Hampshire, where we do a lot of exporting and we're trying to do much better. So that, again, is why I was surprised to see that that program got zeroed out in the budget request. Can you tell me what's going to replace it to help our manufacturers and small businesses get into international markets?
Senator, the number one program we can have to get into international markets for all small businesses is fair trade. That's what President Trump is fighting for. When we have fair trade, we do not have to pick winners and losers through grant programs to determine who gets to export and fight the massive tariff and non-tariff trade barriers that all of our small businesses are faced with today. So my focus is in ensuring that everyone has access to export markets and ensuring that through our international loan and trade export loan programs, that they can have a sustainable loan program and not hopefully compete for limited resources with a state-based grant that has a lot of bureaucratic costs, delays, and complexity compared to just competing on a level playing field with fair trade.
Well, Administrator, I'll tell you what that fair trade is doing in New Hampshire, because I visited a bakery in Derry, New Hampshire, that was started over 25 years ago. It was started to address sugar-free baked goods. They do 85% of their business with Canada. They used to have 25 employees. Now they have 2, because the president's tariffs have put them out of business. And I've visited multiple businesses in New Hampshire who are being put out of business by these tariffs. So while I appreciate that that's the president's idea for how to help small businesses, we have a lot of small businesses in New Hampshire who are not being helped by those tariffs. And so what I want to know is what SBA can do to help those small businesses to compensate for the impact that those tariffs are having on them?
Senator-
And that's my question. Thank you,
Senator,
Mr. Chairman.
Respectfully, we're
Good morning, Administrator Loeffler. Members of this committee have sent you 9 letters requesting information on the major changes at SBA. Our letters went unanswered, questions were ignored, and documents were not provided. We have the right to exercise oversight of the agency. So would you commit to responding fully and promptly to all oversight requests, yes or no?
Ranking Member, we've responded to every single letter, and we've been very focused on ensuring
This
this agency
here.
has great transparency. We've put out numerous announcements.
Yeah.
We've responded to every letter to make sure that you have, I look forward to working with you. I want to make sure
Right.
that our small businesses have bipartisan support.
So I want you to know that this type of response is unacceptable, that we expect for you to answer our question point by point. That's
Ranking
why
Member,
real answer.
What I'd like to say is that what we're focused on is serving the needs of small business, and what we have done in the last 100 days is make sure that small businesses know that we are there for them for the very first time. This agency was working from home
Reclaiming
for
my
4
time.
years.
I have too many.
90% of the staff.
Reclaiming my time. I have too many questions, and I waited this long to have this opportunity. Ms. Loeffler, how many employees resigned through the deferred resignation program in round 1 and 2?
Ranking Member, we have taken a very careful review of the agency to streamline it. The agency doubled under the Biden administration during COVID and never returned to the size
I just
that it
want
was
to
during
know
the Trump
the number.
administration.
It's a question about how many employees.
Yes, ma'am. At this point, we have reduced the agency headcount by 2,700 employees, returning it to the same size that it was during the first Trump administration when small business was booming and we had the best economy in my lifetime.
We have heard that the Office of Field Operations saw a 20% cut. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. The Office of Field Operations had really been depleted under the Biden administration, consolidated back in Washington, and our small businesses were left without contacts on Main Street. 90% of the
You
staff
say that
was
is
working
no,
from home.
that the 20% is incorrect. So how many field offices are operating with a reduction of 25% or more employees since January?
Ranking Member, what we found was that we had 35 offices across the country that had 0 or 1 employee working in them. What we've done is streamline and right-size the agency to put our mission focus back on small businesses on Main Street to
So
make sure
what
they have a
about
critical
what
mass
about
of resources.
Will you provide the committee with those numbers?
Of course, we'd be happy to
Thank
work
you.
with you and share information.
Will you provide the committee with copies of the agency reduction in force and reorganization plans that you submitted to OPM on March 13 and April 14, as well as the monthly reports beginning with May?
I think you'll find this is the most transparent administration that
I'm not
we've
asking
ever had
you
in
if
the
it's
history. and
transparent or not. Would you submit to us?
We'll be happy
We
to
have the
share
right to know.
information with
Okay,
you
thank
as
you.
appropriate.
I saw that you praised Elon Musk last week in a tweet. And so did you see Elon Musk's recent tweet saying that the Trump administration's massive, outrageous pork field congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination? Do you support his position on the reconciliation bill now?
What I was shocked was that every single Democratic member of this committee voted against
No, I'm not
small
talking.
tax-
We're not talking
small
about
business tax
Democrats.
cuts. It was
We Democrats voted against the bill exactly because of the characterization of Elon Musk. So the ugly bill shortchanged people in this country, taking more than 700 million people will be affected by the cuts on Medicaid.
Ranking Member, This is not true.
I asked
The
you
bill
if you.
supports, it's
I
a
asked
tax
you-
cut bill that secures our border
Reclaiming my
and cuts
time.
$1.6 trillion.
You're talking
in
about the
needless
beautiful
spending.
bill. I'm talking about the ugly bill and the characterization of Elon Musk that was paraded on every meeting in the White House. He was good then. Now that he is sending a warning to the American people that this bill is going to bankrupt our federal government. You don't agree with that?
Ranking Member Velasquez,
I
I'm-
yield back my time.
Chairman and Ranking Member for convening this hearing today, and thank you to the administrator for being here with us finally. We've been waiting for months for you to get here. I do agree, it is a new day at the SBA, a new depressing day. Since this administration began, we have heard almost nonstop concerns from small business owners fighting for their businesses' survivals, all while the SBA cuts staff, plans to take on more than $1 trillion student loan portfolio, and removes critical needed resources from communities across the country. Administrator, you should be working with us as well, too, on the Democratic side to support our small businesses. You mentioned you came to New Jersey. Next time, give us a call. We'll love to be with you as well, like our members across the aisle have been. I led several of my New Jersey and New York colleagues in a letter to your department expressing concern that your plan to remove SBA offices from so-called sanctuary cities would negatively affect my state and the surrounding region, which contributes trillions to the national GDP. In response, you sent the letter describing these concerns as concerns for illegal aliens and characterizing these communities as criminal sanctuary cities. As head of SBA, do you care at all for expiring entrepreneurs in these communities you so-called label them as sanctuary cities? Do you care, yes or no?
Congressman, I'm deeply concerned about our cities that.
Do you care, yes or no? Yes?
Absolutely. But
Okay,
I'm
yes,
also
I'll take that as a
grateful to
yes.
this
Do you
administration
commit
for
right
securing the
here to
border.
stop your plans to do away with the resources many of these businesses rely on? Yes or no?
Congressman, we're
Yes or
streamlining
no?
our resources to ensure that
No,
offices
I'll take
have-
that as a no, because obviously you don't care. These are businesses that are not labeled as Democratic or Republican. You're going to hurt all businesses by doing something like this. You mentioned working with DOGE to identify what you called illegal loans to undocumented people. However, even after requests from us to review DOGE access, we have had silence, complete silence from you and your office. And now we hear about this case. Will you commit to allow members and committee staff an in-camera review of these cases? Yes or no?
We will commit to working with you to so that you understand the importance of the cuts that.
Yes or no?
we're
Yes?
streamlining.
Do I hear yes or no? Okay.
We
I'm
will
gonna
absolutely
take
look
that.
forward to working with you.
Okay,
because
let's
the
take that as a yes. We'll
refocusing of
wait
this
on the
agency
response.
is vital
I'm
for small
reclaiming my
businesses.
time. On February 3rd, I have a lot of questions, Administrator. No disrespect, but we've been waiting for you for months, so you have to let me get through my questions. On February 3rd, 2025, Musk and Trump's DOGE team invaded the SBA and gained access to SBA systems, including its human resources, contract, and payment systems. This type of access to government systems by unauthorized, unvetted individuals is unprecedented. The committee continues to request specific information on the level of DOGE access to SBA systems that you have not provided, yet you regularly cite the information that DOGE releases about SBA that appears to be obtained from those systems. What SBA system did DOGE access?
Congresswoman, the premise of your question is entirely false. Our DOGE partner is an SBA employee who has been vetted, as has the entire team.
Administrator,
and they are
did
working
DOGE gain
to ensure-
access to employee personnel files?
Congresswoman, this is exactly
Did
what
DOGE
frustrates small
gain access
businesses.
to employee
They wanna know
personnel
that you're
files?
focused
Yes
on
or no? These are yes or no questions, Administrator. Okay, I'll
Congressman,
take
they
that
have
as the
the
yes if you're not
access that
responding.
any
Did
employee
DOGE gain
has.
access? I'm reclaiming my time. Did DOGE gain access to the personnel identifiable information of small businesses?
Congressman, we
Yes
have,
or no?
We
It's
have
yes or
followed
no,
every law, and we will
Administrator.
continue to follow the law as SBA employees.
Okay,
do.
I'm going
But
to
we
take
just
that as
saw
you
a
not answering.
USDA
I'm reclaiming my
employee
time. I'm
arrested.
reclaiming my time. What information was obtained and what is it being used for?
Congressman, we'd be happy to work with you. We've been very transparent about the
No,
cost
you- no, you
reductions,
haven't,
the
Administrator.
streamlining we've been doing at the
Can you
agencies.
answer the
We have
question?
35 empty offices. We've talked about those.
It's a yes or no
We have
question.
11 data centers that we don't need. We need one data center.
Yes or no?
We have $3 billion
Administrator, you're
of
saying a
contracts that
lot
aren't
without
being-
saying anything
being
at all.
used.
We're trying to
No,
get
these
answers
this
to our
is
questions.
So that we can focus on small businesses. The bureaucracy
With
is
that, I
strangling
yield
small
back.
businesses.
With that, I
and
yield
they
back.
wanna
The
know-
administrator does not answer my questions. We've been waiting for months to get answers to these questions. You're saying a lot, but you're not saying anything at all. With that, I yield back.
Thank you, Administrator Loeffler, for being here today. You testified that as you've traveled around the country, you've heard three big concerns from our small businesses. You talked about workforce challenges, regulations and red tape, and taxes. I'm hearing similar concerns, but I want to address both. I want to start by asking you about the workforce challenges you've heard about. As I've traveled around New Hampshire, and part of what has really given me grave concern about the biggest cuts to healthcare in American history is the impact that these cuts will have on our small business owners and employees. Do you have a sense, Administrator, of what the scale is? How many small business owners and employees depend on Medicaid?
Congressman, we have to make sure that Medicaid is there for the people that need it and not for people who are gaming the system or double dipping. We know that there are Medicaid checks being sent to the same person in 2 different states, and Americans want to know that this program will be there for them when they need it. We should make sure that pregnant single women are able to get that and not
Thank you,
able-bodied
Administrator
Americans.
Loeffler.
And
Reclaiming my
that's what's
time. The answer
happening
is
right now.
7 million small business owners and employees depend on Medicaid for affordable health care coverage. We're talking about the biggest cuts to Medicaid in American history. We're also not extending the ACA premium tax credits, which is going to hurt our small businesses across this country. And it's what I'm hearing from our small businesses every day on this job. I want to ask you about childcare as a workforce issue. And Administrator, will you commit to working with me and with our committee to make childcare more affordable?
Congressman, I hear child care concerns, and we want to make sure that we are ensuring that small businesses have the resources they need, and I would love to hear your ideas about improving that across this country.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I will take you up on that. I want to ask you, you mentioned red tape and taxes. As I've traveled around New Hampshire, the number one concern, I guess my question to you is, how important is certainty to our small businesses?
Certainty is one thing that small businesses would like to have, but running a small business is about anything but certainty, and that's
Sure.
why the tax bill is so important, so
Thank
that they
you.
have the continuity of their expectations around tax.
The primary driver of uncertainty for our small businesses today is this absolutely hard to follow trade policy in which tariffs and trade wars have been waged and exemptions have been granted. You testified earlier, Administrator, that you oppose exemptions for small businesses from the president's tariffs. I just want to be sure that we have that right.
I testified that we have to have fair trade for our small businesses who don't have the resources to fight against the trade war waged against our small businesses, allowing small businesses in China to take away, to commit sabotage and espionage when small businesses produce in China.
Administrator,
They
so
steal their
I'm going to
intellectual
take that as
property.
you oppose exemptions for small businesses while some of the biggest corporations in the world are getting exemptions from
I
the
oppose the
president's
hollowing
trade
out of
policies.
this country's manufacturing base, and that's happened across communities. 5 million workers have not had a voice. We have to restore opportunity for our workers, for our small businesses to compete on a level playing field.
I agree. You know, in New Hampshire, we have an incredible community of advanced manufacturing small businesses. And I'm reading here from a letter I received from one such business in the town of Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire. This is a precision motion and engineering company. It's a small business. They said without relief, companies like Abtec, representing the backbone of American manufacturing, face significant challenges to sustaining growth, innovation, and employment. I've heard from countless small businesses who are worried that they're not going to be able to stay in business because of the president's tariffs. Will you commit to working with us in this committee to make sure that our small manufacturing businesses don't go out of business?
Well, certainly I'll always commit to working
Through
with this committee
exemptions
to find
to these
options and solutions. Our solution of onshoring our supply chain through our onshoring portal is critical, but we have to ensure that our small businesses are never at the mercy of the Chinese Communist Party again.
I couldn't
Why did
agree
that
more
happen
with
in
that,
America?
and I want
We
them
have
to stay in
make sure.
business. So
Yeah,
I hope we can
they'll
count on
use
you to
our
work with us
onshoring
on that.
portal. Yeah.
Administrator Loeffler, you talked about staffing cuts. Last week, you testified before the Senate, and you committed to my colleague Senator Shaheen from New Hampshire to giving us a full update on how you plan to restaff critical district offices, including in New Hampshire, so that you know we've seen a 60% reduction in our staffing in New Hampshire. How is that in any way consistent with strengthening the SBA in the field?
Well, we've certainly seen a return to office, and the return to office did cause some people to opt out of returning to work in office, but we are restaffing those field offices, and people are back at work now in the field office.
Well,
for the first
unfortunately,
time
in my
4
state of New
years.
Hampshire, we've seen a 60% reduction, and this is harming our small businesses. So I expect that we will be hearing from you with answers to our questions about how you intend to restore the workforce in that critical field office.
Gentlelady's time is up. Andy from great state of Kentucky for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Administrator Loeffler, for being here with us today. I want to start by going back to one of the questions you obfuscated on earlier today when the ranking member Velasquez asked if you would provide the committee with copies of the agency reduction in force and reorganization plans that you submitted to the Office of Personnel Management on March 13th and April 14th, as well as the monthly progress reports beginning in May. That's a yes or no question. You said you would do it as appropriate. So let me ask you, is it appropriate for you to give the oversight body and Congress of the Small Business Association those plans specifically from March 13th and April 14th, as well as the monthly progress reports? Will you do that for us, and is it appropriate?
Congressman, I have committed to being transparent with
Right,
the
but you're not. So is it yes or no?
No, I've been very
No.
transparent
This is
about our
so.
plans.
I tell you what, this is so simple. Will you give us the report you submitted on March 13th and April 14th?
We'll certainly talk with our team, and
So that's a
I
no.
have broad authority.
Like, I've
to
got
run the
kids, Ms.
agency
Loeffler, so I'm
under
used
the
to dealing with this type of obfuscation.
Yeah.
It's a yes or no question. Will you
No,
give us the
we'll
reports
talk
you've
about it,
already
we'll come
submitted?
back to you.
No, we
We'll
don't need
certainly
to
get
talk
back
about
to
it.
you.
Will you submit it?
Yeah. No, we'll certainly get back to you. I have broad
No.
authority to
You're-
run the agency.
The buck
That's what
has
I'm
to
doing.
stop somewhere.
No, the
with
buck
the
stops
Small
with
Business
me. I make the
Administration. Okay,
decisions
then
for the
yes or no. Will you
agency.
give us the reports you gave to OPM?
Yeah, I'll consult with my team, and we'll come back.
No. Your team. It's you.
Yeah.
I thought you were in charge.
Yeah, well, we're going to make sure that we uphold all the rules and requirements. of
No.
the
It's a yes or a no question. Will
yeah.
you give us the reports you submitted? If you're transparent, you'll give them to us.
Yes, we'll.
Yes, great.
certainly
Thank you.
come back
Thank you
to
for saying yes. We will hold you to that. I also want to go into tariffs now, because with tariffs, I've talked about tariffs all the time. Tariffs are neither good nor bad. Tariffs are a tool. A hammer is neither good nor bad. It's a tool. It's really good for putting a nail in a wall. It's not so great for fixing your iPhone. How you use them matters. And the chaotic nature of the Trump tariff policy has disrupted the economy so much that even Wall Street analysts have a name for it, the taco term. That we're talking about Trump's tariff policy. But that uncertainty is not funny for small businesses. In fact, the Wall Street Journal Small Business Index found that 58% of small businesses say the economy has gotten worse. 66% of small businesses believe tariffs are having a negative impact, and 51% anticipate a recession coming up soon. Do you have any relief efforts or certainty that you can give small business owners in my district of Louisville, Kentucky, all of whom are complaining to our office about this, that there will be certainty in the tariff policy specifically?
President Trump is fighting for fair trade. He's fighting for American industry and
Right, so you don't have an answer on that either.
No
Okay,
one has
this is
fought
good.
for
I'm going to reclaim
American
my time.
workers. They've
I'm
been
going to reclaim my time.
completely-
I'm reclaiming my time right now. Look, I told you, I've got 3 kids. They're in elementary and middle school. When they don't answer a question directly, I know what they're up to. I know what you're up to, too. So we're just going to move on. Hopefully, we can get to some good work here today. I got a lot of questions about your fiscal year 2026 budget request, and I'm just hoping you can clarify a few of those today, because I'm looking at the budget request right now. And I'm on the Veterans Committee. I have over 40,000 veterans who live in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm deeply concerned about veterans' issues and how they can make a really good life for themselves after they've put on the uniform to serve us. But the plain reading of your budget says that it is one of the 15 programs that looks like it is going to be ending. That's our Veterans Business Outreach Centers that help veterans. Last year, the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, they held more than 1,900 training events, including 867 Boots to Business reboot classes at more than 180 military institutions. Boots to Business is a program passed by Congress. Testifying in the Senate, you said, I want to correct the assumption that we are eliminating these veteran business outreach centers. And today with Mr. Tran's questions, you said that something similar. So I want to ask, is the Veteran Business Outreach Center program one of the 15 entrepreneurial development programs mentioned in your budget request?
We have said that we will continue to fund it, that the $10 million funding level is a floor, not a ceiling. We have, in fact, 35 Boots to Business efforts going on this week that veterans can
Okay, but I want to drill into this really quickly. I'm
San
reclaiming
Antonio
my
last
time.
week
I want to
with
drill into this really quickly. By cutting those 15 programs, you cut $167 million. You say that you're going to put them over in the Small Business Development Center, but you increase the funding for that only by $10 million. You say it's a floor, but it's in here. It's in the budget. It says exactly what it is. So it doesn't seem possible that you have the funding for a congressionally approved program which has put thousands of veterans not just back to work, but having the American dream of starting their own business. Your budget eliminates it, and again, you are not giving us a straight answer. I wish you would do that because just yesterday on the House floor, this committee passed 7 bipartisan bills. We work together for small businesses so that everyone can have the American dream, and I hope we can have that relationship with you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Administrator Loeffler, you know, it's finally nice to actually have somebody from the SBA after so many hearings to actually answer questions about policies that are being put in place. And the first thing I would like to ask you is if you can name those offices that had 0 employees. I would love to see those. You don't have to give them right now, but you can give them to me back in a letter I think that you could address. I would love to hear what offices and what cities those were there. But, you know, you say you are supporting small businesses, but you moved offices out of 6 metropolitan areas. People in New York City are now having to travel to Long Island, which is not easy to get to. You have to go by train or other means in order to get there. How does moving these offices out of the metropolitan areas where they serve all collectively hundreds of thousands of businesses, how is that supporting small business?
Congressman, thank you for the question. I would like to start by thanking Secretary Noem and ICE for ensuring that our cities are safe. You saw in a sanctuary city yesterday.
That's not, I'm not asking you about ICE. I'm asking about how you're supporting small businesses if you're moving the offices out of the areas.
Small businesses safe after 4 years of an open
were any of
borders
these
policy.
Were any of these SBA offices or any of these small businesses under attack or threat? Do you have proof of that where everything was going on where you needed to move these offices out?
In Denver, we saw a terror attack on the Jewish community by an illegal alien who is in a sanctuary city. Yes, there are many small businesses in Denver that are threatened by illegal aliens who are
Again, I would love to see that list of small businesses that have been attacked or threatened by
We have many
by these
stories
where
of small
you felt that it
businesses.
was needed in order to move these offices out. But when you, in doing that, you are not only hurting, and this is, you were supposed to be there to help businesses, support businesses in these areas. And some of these businesses are owned and operated not only by Democrats, but independents and Republicans as well. And when you move these resources out of these metropolitan areas, you are making it harder for them to receive these services. So how is this helping small businesses? How is it keeping them safe?
Congressman, this is not about partisanship. This is about public safety.
Well, I'm talking about right now, whether or not you move the office out of these areas, these small businesses are still in those areas. So how does that help these small businesses if you're moving them out of these metropolitan areas?
Congressman, there are resources all over this country from the SBA. We have 1,000 small business development centers.
Do you agree? You've said numerous times today that you need to be on Main Street where these things are, right? Main Street is not only in small town America, but it's also in large metropolitan areas. Do you not agree you need to be where the businesses are?
We absolutely are where the businesses are.
Well,
but
how
we're
are,
ensuring
then
that our
explain
regional
if that is
offices-
the, and why are you moving offices out of these metropolitan areas?
Not only are
Because
they
when you do
unsafe,
that,
but the
you are
office
not where the businesses are.
The offices are not only unsafe, they're in areas that are difficult to get to. They have, the buildings
Okay.
are inaccessible
So
to small
moving an
businesses.
office
They
out of
need to
New
be
York
close to
City
Main
into
Street.
Long
They're gonna
Island
be
is
on Main
making it
Street.
more accessible for those thousands of small businesses in New York City.
We are going to support regional offices in areas that comply with federal law, including federal immigration law.
I'm mistaken. I'm sorry. I was assuming that you were the Small Business Administrator, not Homeland Security.
We are the voice for small businesses who want safety and security, and we're going to make sure our resources
And those
are
small
available to
businesses want
everyone.
resources and help and support. And by moving those resources and help and support out of these metropolitan areas, you cannot legitimately tell me that you are supporting them. Next
Congressman, our
question.
loan
Next
volume is
question.
up 80% compared
Next
to the-
question. The FAR Council was rewriting the government's procurement regulations. Many of the rules are in place because small businesses find it nearly impossible to compete with large corporations to win a contract. To what extent has SBA been involved in the rewrite to advocate for small contractors, and have you specifically addressed the potential elimination or sunset of the rule of two?
Congressman, we are working with OMB on the federal acquisition regulations with the board and ensuring that small businesses once again have a voice there. We've seen the aims of the program not being met. We think that's a serious problem. As the voice, as the advocate for small businesses, we have every means and hope.
When you're reducing the numbers, the goals for small businesses, whether it be women-owned, veteran-owned, or minority-owned businesses, how is that helping them, and how is that advocating for small businesses when those contracts are now going to larger things? And with that, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Administrator. I stay in close contact with the business so I'm important to bring some very specific information that comes out of this conversation. Sorry, thank you. Sorry about that. I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Administrator. I want to report back to the businesses in my communities, which I stay in close contact with, some of these information. It is correct that you have closed the New York City SBA office in Federal Plaza. Is that correct?
Congressman, we are working on moving offices out of sanctuary cities.
I'm asking, did you close the office? Is it still open, or is it closed at this moment in time?
I believe it's still open.
It's still open. I'll note that Federal Plaza is where Federal Courthouse is, where we have New York Police Department headquarters and other government organizations right in the Wall Street area, very safe, secure area, and easily accessible by mass transit. Are we continuing to operate, just for nearby purposes, the Bridgeport, Connecticut office, or we intend to close that?
I can get you a list of the offices that we currently have open. I believe we still have it, and we have our small business development centers as well across the New York and Connecticut area.
And what about Newark, New Jersey? Is that office open, closed, planned to be closed?
Like I said, I can get you the full list. Right now, I believe they're operating.
All right, I will share that. I will share that with the folks that we have.
The offices that we are closing had no staff.
What is the head count of the expected of the Long Island office that will replace the New York City office?
Well, certainly we want to optimize our field to ensure that small businesses are being served. We think that sometimes for small businesses to approach a federal building can be intimidating and not as accessible, and particularly when they're in sanctuary cities.
I don't mean to be rude, but I just wanted a specific number. You don't have that number at this stage.
Yeah,
of the
we're
game.
developing
All right.
it.
Okay.
We'll continue to
So I'll
evaluate.
report that we don't know how many people will be in the Long Island office, replacing that which is in the New York City
We'll have sufficient staff
office.
to meet the needs of small businesses.
When I went onto your website, I did not see any specific information regarding tariffs, and that is the single most asked question that I get from small businesses. What are the tariffs? What's the percentages? Do you intend to have a distinct page on small business website that a business can go to look at and see what the tariff policies are?
Congressman, on our homepage, we have our onshoring portal that allows small businesses to access resources that can direct them to onshore suppliers to strengthen their supply chains and ensure that they
But you
aren't
don't have
dependent.
specific information that when a business is trying to price its product or service, it needs to know certain specific information, and it needs to know exactly what the tariffs are for the particular country, for the particular product. Just yesterday, there was an announcement that steel and aluminum may be going from 25% up to 50%. We don't know if that's true. There may be a deal that comes down tomorrow, or maybe not, with a company. And I want to be able to direct someone And so either you do or you won't have that in the Small Business Administration website. Do I assume that that is not the case? You're going to refer them to some other location for that information?
The tariff conversations are ongoing, and the president has implemented 10% reciprocal tariffs in the meantime, and
amongst
the
other things.
administration will continue to ensure that.
All right, we'll try to find the
changes are
information I can, and I'll share it. Should I inform the small businesses in my area that the organization is going to cease all efforts for women, minority, and disabled-owned businesses, the initiatives that have existed in the past, given the policies toward inclusion, diversity, and equity?
That's incorrect, Congressman. We're streamlining and unifying our services to ensure that there's not confusion and too much bureaucracy for small businesses to deal with.
Does that mean there will continue to be programs for women, minority, and disabled
Our services
organizations?
are available to all who qualify. We don't pick winners and losers. We don't.
Well, no one's asking you to pick it, but
political
there have been specific
professors.
initiatives. I'm not meaning to be contentious, but there's been specific initiatives to assist those who are women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, and disabled-owned businesses. And those initiatives which assist people in those categories, are they going to be continued or are they going to end?
We continue our compliance with statutory requirements for small business contracting.
That doesn't sound like a firm commitment, but I appreciate your answers. Mr. Chairman, I yield back my time.
The gentleman yields his time back. I now recognize.
Thank you, Administrator, for being here today. You know, as my colleagues have touched on, the administration is proposing deep cuts to SBA's entrepreneurial development programs, and the salaries and expenses that directly support our SBA federal workforce are under fire. I recently met with a young woman from the Bay Area, my constituent, who was hired for a permanent position at SBA at the regional office in San Francisco last December after holding temporary positions at the agency since 2017. And this individual, she had worked tirelessly through COVID, through the pandemic, one of the hardest and darkest times for small business owners around the country, to keep those small businesses going in the Bay Area. She dedicated thousands of hours in the field, door to door, working with business owners literally night and day prior to being wrongfully terminated by DOGE. This individual played a vital role in connecting these small businesses, especially minority-owned businesses, which I know this administration doesn't have much love for, and underserved businesses to resources, training, and expert opportunities. Technical assistance, as you know, is extremely important for our small businesses. Then one Friday, unbeknownst to her, and her direct supervisor, she was fired unexpectedly and without proper reason. Unfortunately, we all know, Republican and Democrat, our SBA local offices have experienced these terminations. She is not the only story. But what's most concerning here is the contradiction between the administrative stated goals and the real actions in real communities. We have, as you've articulated, shut down 6 and counting SBA offices in the country. I represent disabled small business owners as a disabled woman myself who started keeping a payroll at the age of 19. I've employed hundreds of folks. I know what it's like trying to call, get on a website, begging for support as both an NGO and a for-profit small business. With the shuttering of these offices, could you tell us now, if I were to call any regional office, what would be my wait time as a small business owner? Is it better or worse since you fired all of these folks unexpectedly? Is it better or worse?
Congressman, it's better because people are in the office.
Could we call one right now? What's the average wait time? What is the average wait time? I've done the work. I've been on hold for more than an hour. The websites are not ADA accessible. You cannot tell us right now that the services being rendered in this moment under your leadership are supporting small business owners at a better rate than they were a year ago. I understand we need to get to the bottom of it. We need to figure out how to create a more efficacious system, but we cannot fool ourselves in saying when you fire thousands of staff, low-income small businesses are better off. Like, we can't lie to each other right here. It's not okay. It's not okay. We can say we're struggling to figure out how to develop a better small business administration, but you can't tell me that the wait times are better. You can't tell me that if I go to the website as a disabled, legally blind woman, that I could get the information that I need. Try your website today. So it's okay for us. We want to work together. We have to work together to say that there are more opportunities to grow. But you can't say the wait times are better, that the service is better, that the information is multilingual in the ways that it should be. I have 150 languages spoken in my district. You want to tell me you want to take away my San Francisco office and that small business owners will be better off because of this bigotry? Are they going to be better off? Are they going to get the information that they need to be able to be prosperous and feed their families, to be the main street that we know that we want in our communities? No, you actually want to take those opportunities, those staffing opportunities, those technical assistance opportunities away from the people that need them most. You don't need to respond because you've responded throughout this whole hearing, and the answer is the services aren't going to be better, that folks aren't going to be able to have opportunities, and you don't care. You don't care because you don't fire over 2,000 people and say that services are going to be better for small business owners. And I'll yield back.
Congresswoman, our loan volume is up 80% compared to the first 100 days of the Biden administration. So we're doing more with less, just like all small businesses do.
I now